Today, and I've not, mind you, I've not done this with Jeremy's permission. That's fine because uh, either way, I still think that this is the great opportunity for me to teach you guys how to deal with attack type players. It's one of the, ooh, let me steady this out some. It's one of the number one questions I'm asked is how do you deal with an extremely aggressive and high skill attack player? So first off, you have to understand the mindset of an attack player. A big part of that, by the way, is learning to recognize the parts they're using. Are they using low flat rush? When they present their deck and they show them, are they using rush? Are they using low rush? Are they using what? That helps you sort of dictate what to use against to counter them. You've got to consider that when you take that into consideration for what you're going to go into. How many attack types are they running? What's the likelihood of what they're picking being this? And then if they do that, what are the other options that they might go into, right? So if they don't KO you the first time, they might change their other bay. Let's say they're running rush and low flat. They might switch out rush for low flat to get more traction, sacrificing stamina to get a more aggressive few initial hits. Are they tech reliant or are they adjustment reliant? Or are they unga bunga or aggression reliant? These are all serious questions that you're going to have to answer. So for instance, Jeremy from the Blade Crashers, we're going to review some of the footage of him going over 960 ball because him beating Rod until it dies, till it breaks in this video. And part of it is because there are not that many people, believe it or not, who are skilled attack players. Mind you, he starts off using Whale Wave, which is better as an attack type against other attack types or balance types, in my opinion, because it's unique shape. Whale Wave, in my opinion, is much better as an attack or balance type than it is a defense or even stamina type. It can be good on stamina and counterattack. It can be good on defense, but it's just not as good as balance and attack Whale Wave. And both of those are, while balance Whale Wave deals better with defense and stamina, attack Whale Wave deals better with attack and balance types. It's a real solid way to deal with what you're going to face. So even though it's at a disadvantage here with Rod, understand, we're going to go over a few reasons why you would struggle against something like that. And you can see he starts by showing off Wizard Rod. You can see his lineup of attack types there. The first one he's going to use is Whale Wave, right? So so let's actually go ahead and skip a little bit forward into Whale Wave. Here we go. So we have Whale Wave, right? 560 low flat. So you can see he launches Rod. Now look at what he does. He drop launches initially, okay? And this is an adjustment heavy attack player. Watch where he drops Whale the second time, occupying towards the center, tilting and hawking. The third time, you will notice he launches for the X-rail from the other side. Why is he doing that? He's making adjustments to see, he's piecing together where Whale Wave needs to go, whether it needs to make direct contact with the drop, does it need more of a tilt and a hawk launch, as you saw, going in and trying to initially get the KO, or does it need to ride the X-rail? Now there, of course, there are opportunities to ping off the X-rail or not fully ride it. Attempting to shoot from there rather than launching center is very difficult. So the fact that he can do it on a low flat set, especially with such a heavy bay, where it's usually easier on lighter bays that are less recoil heavy versus a very heavy bay on low flat, is kind of what I want to point out here. And it's kind of what I want to get in your heads. What are you going to do when you come across the attack player who understands the limitation of tractions, for instance, for low flat, and somebody like Jeremy who's going to try drop launching, and he will try anything. So where most people get lost and why they suck at Beyblade against attack players, especially playing defense, and they'll often try to use attack versus attack or stamina, is because you have to learn to understand what that attack player is doing. And that's very difficult because with an attack player like Jeremy, who is not tech reliant, He does not see tech as probably more than just a thing for him to engage in. So when you're up against an opponent like that, right, he doesn't care too much about tech. He doesn't care too much about combo. He is saying, how do I rip harder than God, get to a position where I can knock out? Mind you, he's just trying to knock out, he's trying to break Rod. He's looking for the heaviest, hardest impact, which also is usually the better way to get a KO. Now, 560 low flat would be devastating if you're going attack versus attack matchup. It's one of those that it would force you into defense and stamina. Part of the problem, though, again, is going to be, especially on a worn rod, you might struggle with Whale Wave, as again, this combo is meant more to just destroy other attack types and defense types, but mostly attack and balance. It leans a little into defense. It's going to struggle usually on stamina, except for if you have a lighter Whale Wave. If you have a very light Whale Wave, I notice they tend to do a little better on the stamina and defense, but they're still kind of heavy, so they're better regardless for attack. And this is what I mean when I say you have to understand what that blade is for, what that part is for, what the bit, what the ratchet is for, right? So it's like, okay, when they turn over those bays, you need to learn to read that. And you need to learn to read what they're doing. Notice how he tries three different ways to deal with Rod, and just continues on forward into it. Now, from here, this is important. It speaks to the mindset of the attack player. Mind you, Jeremy comes from Metal Fight, where attack is very difficult to use, because in Metal Fight, you have to have a very active mindset of, okay, how do I change my tactic here? Where do I need to go? How are they launching? How do I get around them maybe if I rail stall, or do I just need time to ridge stall? Do I instead need to go directly for a flower pattern? Which part of the stadium does their base slide towards, so before it starts to settle down, I can connect with it to knock out? All of these things matter. Coming from Metal Fight, it's instinctual for him. So he is going to look at it as probably more or less, if you're up against someone like Jeremy, what's your answer? You think you're going attack for attack, you're not. You have a heavy bay with a lot of traction. It's on a heavy ratchet. Even if you have something that's low, again, what if he tilts in and hawk launches, and all of a sudden now, right, or he launches on reverse, because Jeremy has launched literally, by the way, with Quake, he's drop launch and then reverse drop launch to the other side. So he can get to anywhere he wants to go. Again, that's staple for attack players in Metal Fight, because you have to be able to deal with the fact that a BB10 is very compact, much like a Hasbro Stadium. So everything has to be perfect. You have to kind of figure out how to get to the correct position to knock things out. An aggressive attack player is somebody who is used to dealing with this, that 120 credit score, fuck it behavior. Somebody who is looking, right, to just KO you, get you over with, and move on to the next point in the ladder. A lot of you think that you're just going to be able to tech your way. It will not. You need to learn positioning. It's one of the reasons why I believe heavily in the theater launch, because I have seen people who play like Jeremy, and they will just launch from this side here towards the rail here to try to instantly just rip hard and grab. And then when you can theater launch and just kind of lop it there and let it somewhat slide down, you can also learn to kind of reverse ride there and line them up for the pocket here. So if once you learn the theater launch, you already know how to get to this side. Then it's just learning how to reverse rail ride there. That's one of the only instances where the reverse rail ride is actually useful, because it lets your defense and balance type, if you're playing for here, if they're shooting for the rail, or even if they're on this side and they're shooting from the rail, learning to reverse rail ride there, or stall here in this area as they ride up, you're going to get pushed here. They're usually going to get pushed down, and then you'll slide around. But it's a lot better than a hard rip like this just knocking you out. And again, I'm going to be doing more of this, reviewing footage of better players, because first off, I think Jeremy deserves all the clout in the world. There's not a lot of people who, and I've often said, players have their lane. I'm a balanced defense type main, right? So there's going to be a specific lane that I'm good at. I can use attack types. I like attack types. I like stamina, but they're not my forte. They're not my preference. Someone like Jeremy is going to tear through you. If you are unprepared, right? And this is one of the biggest things I have to prepare my team that I'm coaching right now. We're third in our org, because it's a new org. They wanted to do a hyper competitive team format. We went from literally last place coming in one tournament late to literally getting sympathy like from people, because they were just, we went from getting sympathy for people to working our way up to third, right? By performing consistently to catch up in the ELO, which is difficult when you've started one tournament late, because you are starting with 0 ELO, whereas last place still gets some, because they've had some wins, some knockouts. It was very difficult, and we're on track right now to get first place. We want first place. What do you think you're going to do, though, against somebody like Jeremy? Somebody like Jeremy will run flat, low flat, rush, all on the same deck. And he's going to know exactly what that attack type does and why he wants to use it. And he's going to go back to the moments where he's training. He's like, that usually dies to this bay. And then he's going to say, okay, cool. Well, they've decided to switch into that. Well, Hexa's not going to move around a whole lot. And it's not super good at being teched. So Jeremy's just going to find a way to locate where your bay is at. He's going to run that gambit. He's going to run that set. He just does not care. Let me actually see, where is it? Because there's one combo he goes into. Where is it? Give me 1 second, because I do want to, let me see. He's still on whale. Okay, here we go. Now, what we want to do, okay, so now we're going into, this is drawn sword 560 and low flat. Again, giving a great deal of weight to drawn sword and low flat. Now, you guys may not know, I like 480 low flat on drawn sword. I feel like 480 low flat really just helps it put the weight down, accelerate a lot faster, and hit hard. 560 low flat works fine and is very aggressive. This footage, I think, is some of the best drawn sword footage I have ever seen as a drawn sword main. Okay? As somebody who main drawn sword as an attack type, who has used multiple different attack, balance, defensive, and stamina combos with drawn sword. I don't care. I've run drawn sword on ball. I've run drawn sword on orb. I've run drawn sword on needle. I've run it on hexa. I've run it on level. This is some of the greatest attack footage I have ever seen for drawn sword. And going over this footage, you guys are going to see what I mean. Mind you, this is 560, which is going to weigh a little bit less and it's going to put more weight towards the outside and unevenly for inbound. So what he's really trying to do here is just get in at the dig. And this is not even him trying to be super competitive. This is just Jeremy having fun trying to break a wizard rod. He's not even interested in this moment in competition. There are people like this that play like this. As a defensive player, as a stamina player, even as a balance player coming up against this, you're going to have to learn to ride patterns, right? To change your trajectory, to fake your opponent out with your launches, to get to a specific area in the Bay Stadium where you can hide or where you can hit them and force them to lose traction as an attack type, hitting them to get some of that stamina out of the way, intercepting. If someone winds up for a super big punch, if I can come in and stuff and hit them first and then maybe slide around with my hook, right? Or like maybe come under, right? So if I hit them in the face, mitigate some of that damage, right? And slip under the body, right? I can a lot of times intercept. It's almost a similar principle in Beyblade. If I hit you first while you're traveling to get to where you want to go, especially if I'm reverse rail riding, and that is a very worn drawn sword in that picture, Jesus Christ. So that makes this even more impressive. Let's just get into this, because this is This broke my brain as a drawn sword main because I have done this on like Winder. He does this on string. But you have to understand, you need to think. To beat the aggressive attack player, you need to think and you need to be right. It is difficult and they will catch you slipping at some point. You need to learn to remain calm in the face of failure. So they hit a 3-pointer on you. That sucks. Freaking out and panicking is not the correct answer. Ask yourself in the moment, pay attention to what's going on. Be present in the base stadium while the battle's going on, especially at the initial launches. Get yours right and immediately look at what they're doing. Learn to read your opponent. Practice this with friends. Get in the correct mindset, or someone like this is always dangerous. They're always dangerous. But if you have the wrong headspace, they're just going to clap you every single time. This is one of the hardest types of people that you will ever, I've often said, like hardcore attack mains, hardcore defense mains, we are some of the hardest people to deal with. Because you will look at our deck and think that they're running 2 attack types or they're running 2 defense types. They're not going to be a problem. I don't know how. And then we just destroy you. And that, I think, is part of the issue where you come to something like this drawn sword footage here. This is absolutely amazing. Take a look at drawn sword. Mind you, you can see he's super relaxed, right? He's goes for tech, but only, you could see he missed the shot there just barely. And look at that. Look. This is insane. God, dude. That wind up on drawn, Jesus, dude. That's on drawn sword. Oof. Big oof. And mind you, that's normal. You will actually, I will be going over some of Gummy Money's footage, by the way, because Gummy Money and his partner that he's playing with, his partner actually pocket launches sometimes. Why does that pocket launch happen? If you notice where he was positioning, he just ripped it hard enough that it slightly overshot trajectory. Is it the end of the world? No, because a judge is going to be like a relaunch. You launched into the pocket. Now, if you do it too much, then yeah, sure, it might be a problem in a tournament. The issue is that when somebody is launching in the pocket like that, right, and you'll see it even with Gummy Money's partner, that person is ripping very hard for a reason, right? They're not just ripping hard for no reason. You'll notice Jeremy is adjusting his tech. He's trying to find the right angle, the right position to get a KO. He's testing the waters, seeing how much. When you have a player like this is worst case scenario. Jeremy's one of the worst case scenarios. Him and Troy, the second part of the Blade Crashers, are the worst people that you as a beginner could ever come across. Watching the two of them commit hate crimes on each other with Beyblade in brotherly love. In brotherly love. But watching them play Beyblade X, Troy and Jeremy both are attack and somewhat defense mains, right? These are two people who both lean very heavily in attack, but both are pretty good with defense. And it's kind of scary because people like them exist and they are at tournaments. There's not too many of them. That's more old school. You'll find a lot of like the early burst players. These people a lot of times used to actually run what they used to call the defense bit because it was really high stamina and it was actually good for defense. And they would use it defensively, right? Or people like myself who mained Octa and then had a lot of attack types. They were problematic because they were using defense types. And the build maybe didn't make sense to you, but a lot of it was just because they knew attack versus attack is too random. And they already knew that they could knock out the stamina bays or burst them. So they would go attack and defense. So if you had a balance type, if you had an attack type, they could counter it with Octa. So this is very difficult to deal with, a drawn sword that is ripped that hard on low flat, being launched in a way that it's going to engage in violence right out the gate. And I don't want this video to be too long. I am going to link Jeremy's video down below. And mind you, this is him just messing around. Especially when him and Troy play, you'll notice they're both kind of reading, and part of it is they've played each other a lot. So they're reading one another and kind of fighting often for position in specific areas of the stadium. And mind you, again, they're just having fun. but they're still going at it harder than a Dodge Charger driven by a 16-year-old who's under the influence and trying to escape the cops. And so, what do you do when one of these people decides they're going to drink a Bang energy drink, show up at your, um, they're going to grab their Bang, grab their Rockstar, show up at a tournament? What's your answer? They are going to take their freaking daddy issues out on you. Please understand, all the rage that they refuse to express, that while they're smiling, goes directly into those Beyblades. You are not surviving if you are unprepared. This is the guy who will send you home with low elo. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the reality. I think in order to play defense well or play even defensively, because there's a difference. You don't necessarily have to play defense. You can beat a player like this with stamina. It's just very hard. And it will be the only way that you're going to get points is to avoid them. Learn to ride trajectories to try to counter their tactics. I'm sorry. If you think having just one or two techniques is going to save you from a player that is an adjusting attack player, Unga Boonga attack player, just ripping no tactics, ripping so hard that they're constantly self-KOing, but they're doing it obviously in a way at an angle to get a burst, or they're riding a specific, because they're like, if I get there, anything after that is GG, because even if you don't, you're going to have to fall to the center going to the other side. Like, if they're piecing these things together, they can be dangerous. I wouldn't say that. I would argue that the tech reliant, right? And then again, the person who is reading, right? Innovating as they go. These two are the hardest, because what do you do for a tech reliant attack player or somebody who is literally being innovative in real time, like Jeremy and Troy? And even then, Troy is a bit unga boonga and innovative. He will make adjustments to bays or combos or tactics as needed, but he starts off ready to hate rip. And even then, it was actually Jeremy who told me that Troy has to hold back because he's afraid of what will happen if he rips full power. Versus one of these guys, you need to be in the right headspace. We don't talk about mentality, right, of Beyblade, but if you're going to deal with someone like this, I'm sorry, this is the reality. Your mentality and tactics need to be there, need to be present. God, dude, just watching this strong sword footage. God, dude, God, bro, look at this. Oh my Jesus, dude. Oh God, and then Tyranno beat. Now I'm gonna actually stop there, because I think from this point forward, some of you may be understanding and piecing together what you really need to think about when you're facing an attack player like this. There needs to be avoidance. If you're in with your stamina, oh shit, he picked the attack type. Fuck it, we ball. Your mentality needs to be, I may not have the advantage, but I'm not dying here. You have to shift your mentality and perspective. You are going to need to start practicing how to ride, where to hide from someone like this. It is going to be more difficult on a tech reliant or, again, adjustment reliant, as somebody who is constantly trying to piece you apart is difficult. And someone who is tech reliant is going to mitigate random chance and skew things in their favor. I am somewhat like Jeremy, where with balance types, I tend to piece you apart like that. Some of you may remember when I was playing Damien and I forgot about the camera on me, I actually rode the same pattern, looked at his trajectory and said, cool, I'm going to ride alongside him to hit that curve he's going to get, to kind of mitigate, right? Some of that if he hits me, I'm just going to start moving around in a pattern I don't want to go. These are all tactics I've had to develop with balance types and sometimes defense types, really with balance types and attack types, to deal with them, because otherwise they may end up in a favorable position, hawk launching on you, tilt launching hard into you, launching into the X-rail, using drop tech, using something like the drop launch, using Nazuma's tungsten. They please understand, to deal with an attack type player like this, you need to change your mentality. You need to stop thinking that you're, going to just be able to outmuscle them. You probably won't if you are not a main like this. And even then, watching two of these guys go at it is like biblical, because it is just fucking violence. It is like watching two angry heavyweights who slept with each other's wives and just found out about it before the boxing match fight it out. There needs to be a change in mentality. You have to say, "Oh, I'm in danger. I need to make adjustments. I need to ride specific patterns." Some of you may remember on my Fit Launch tutorial, I primarily teach you guys initially the winding fit launch. Why? Because most of the requests at that time, and I might do a redo of that tutorial, were how do I deal with the drop launch when they're getting so much hang time, or the tungsten when they're getting so much hang time? The answer is you're going to have to wind there, because what will end up happening is if they're launching for hang time, they're ripping really, really hard. You may risk somewhat getting knocked out. Whereas if you just roll around, by the time they're settled and starting to come back down, they're initiating motion. You are already settled in your trajectory. Hit them either into the wall or into a pocket, because you have a higher point of traction riding the inside of the bowl, right? So you can just regular fit launch to get there first, instead of turning it right and like this and back. You would turn it like this and back and get it to wind to counter that. Or you could do it, but it's going to depend on the type of blade and type of bit that you're using. It's going to depend on how hard they're ripping. If they're ripping super hard, if you're not fit launching, turning it this way and then ripping super hard, you could get knocked out, because you're causing the interaction, pushing them usually into the cow and taking and occupying the space. If you're not good at that angle, if you're not good at that, so you have to understand what you're looking at in your combo. What are they doing with that bit? What are they doing with that ratchet? What are they doing with that orientation? There's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, can I get just a closer look? Do you mind turning it over?" And looking to see, did they balance that attack type? Did they unbalance it? Did they, like your balance? One of the reasons I don't like 1, and one of the reasons that I don't like 7, and you guys keep asking me why, although I do like 180 on low flat, 160 does not have the same firepower. I do not like it. And I've noticed, whereas 9 may lack firepower and weight behind it for knockout, it also helps a bay retain its recoil. And you guys may know, in my recent tournament, I took first, using Crimson Garuda as a recoily scooper pooper on A2 mold point, tearing apart my opponents, pinging into them. Someone like Jeremy, I would be using that 960 point specifically to just avoid him, because he's probably going to burst me and kill me. I'm going to have to hope I out stamina his low flat set or his flat set. That may come down to me reverse riding, using my recoil to try to get a knockout. That may come down to me maybe drop launching towards the center of the stadium across to the other side, right? Or theater launching, right? To kind of fall down, ride the X-rail and catch them as they come down. Sometimes you could theater launch, let it drop from the theater launch. If you get it high enough here in a TT, it'll drop down at the bottom and then wind around. By that timing, you can a lot of times pick up a KO. But it's a little iffy, dude, because it's like, at the end of the day, if you're not fully committed to what you're doing in understanding your combo, understanding why you're doing what you're doing, why you're trying to get somewhere, what are you trying to do, how are you trying to counter, you're going to struggle. If you're a defensive player running Hexa, no, I'm sorry, you won't have enough angle. Hexa is a balance bit, not a defense bit. You will not have enough angle. And I don't know a single really amazing skilled defense player who doesn't see Hexa as a good bit, but not fully defense. And who would not prefer to use something like Spike or, Dot, in my opinion, if you don't want to use Needle. Bound Spike, I don't like, because it's more stamina. Under Needle, you lose the tilt. You scrape too much. There are, now on rod, under needle is good, sure, or on impact rake. I've seen that. That was fun. I was tearing things up. By the way, we're going to have a random bats after this video, and then we're going to get into a bit of impact drake and some of the combos that I've been running, and really try. Maybe you guys will be helped by some of the combos I've come up with for impact drake. But this is what I mean when I say you guys need to think. You guys need to think, because just ripping to rip is a bad idea. Just throwing Hexa, and if you throw Hexa on anything and think you're surviving this, no. And I'm going to link his video. Please go check it out, because I think it's absolutely fucking awesome. He's literally just trying to break Wizard Rod, and he's still engaging in tactics to get the KO. You cannot, if you cannot mirror them, you cannot ride the same lines as them, you're going to have to learn to avoid or counter them, and you're going to have to understand what the limitations of that combo they're using are. And you're going to have to take them serious as a threat. So that's going to do it for me. I hope you found this video useful. I'm going to be going over the different types. I know I wanted to do more of these types of videos in the new year. But the last one was just me as a coach going over what you shouldn't do and play. This is going to be what you should do to avoid the attack type player and the severity of their brutal onslaught, because they're not just running one attack bit. A lot of attack players have leveled up. They're using a stamina, using a defense, and they tend to be better with Hexa. We balance type players, especially as a balanced defense player, I understand Hexa pretty deep. I use it a lot. So it's a little different for me. I look at how a lot of people use Hexa, and I'm like, that's wrong. You should be avoiding. Hexa is going to want to stand itself up, right? And it's designed to knock back, to knock out. It's why a few of you have asked me how come on some of my older live streams when I use Hexa a lot, I would use Needle Bay and a Hexa Bay. I don't know if some of you remember, but in one of the live streams, I used the Needle Bay to tilt to knockout, and then I was using Hexa specifically to knock back to knockout, because different blades work better with that shape than others. It's not just all about outspinning. And I'd argue if you're using a defensive bay, if you think you're going to get the opportunity to outspin a good attack player like this, you're not. Jeremy or Troy would eat you. They would eat you alive. And then what are you going to do against the balanced type player that's not going to just stop spinning because they're using a balanced type bit? Hexa doesn't have as much stamina as Hexa Wolf might, but they're going to hit you so hard at some point you're going to get pushed up, scraped up against something. You're going to start to lose. They're not concerned about Wolf. Your main of Wizard Rod and Hexa Wolf is their training dummy. And Jeremy literally breaks them for jokes. That's what this video is. A lot of attack players just do not take stamina and defense players serious, and this is why. Because a lot of them come from, you know, a background of maining this stuff. So, but that's going to do it for me. Again, I'm going to link the video, full video down below of him breaking Wizard Rod in the comment section, because I just think this is absolutely keynote. This is perfect. If you want to see what an attack, and this is him just for fun, doing this for fun. He's relaxed. You can see it in his posture. He's relaxed. He's having fun. He's just ripping the knockout rod. What do you think you're going to do when you come up against someone like this at a tournament? Best of luck. I hope Anyways, guys, yeah. I'll see you guys in the next video.